Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
Louie Louie in the house.
Hey, how's it going?
Eric, what is your last name?
Becker.
Eric Becker from Louie Louie.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how did you guys get involved with this? Because like this is one of my favorite products. I was just telling him this. This is bragging on his product. I haven't drank alcohol now in probably a month and a half. I think since we started carrying this, and I think the first day he and I met, I actually told him, I was like, dude, I can't drink THC seltzers. They mess me up too bad. But these right here are phenomenal.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's just like it's a chill drink that I drink at the end of the night, and it's like a nightcap.
Yeah, look, I been hearing a lot of similar things, especially from a lot of folks who work around a lot of alcohol and maybe had their fair share or seen enough people have their fair share. So I'm glad to hear that you've been enjoying it. But to go back to your other question, how did we get involved in it? I'm actually a lawyer by training, and after working in New York in big law firms and then for the government after moving down here, I started working with cannabis and hemp companies about 5 years ago.
Like doing the law stuff for them?
Yeah. So stopped technically practicing law. So I started being a consultant, but focusing on regulatory strategy and regulatory compliance. So helping brands, everything from, is this label right and compliant, to, hey, can I make this product in this state, or where's a market we should be looking towards next or not? And so, I've always been kind of like really into different drinks and products kind of person. Thought about, hey, what would I ever be involved in my own brand? And then over the summer of 22, Minnesota changed some of their rules around similar hemp products. And essentially the way they legalized it was that the laws changed one day and there were no regulations requiring permitting or anything. So these kind of products, these hemp derived products, including THC, generally lower dose in practice, everyone started making drinks in Minnesota because immediately all the breweries, anyone with a canning line, just realized that it was legal for them to do it. And it's
a huge market.
Yeah. And I mean, and it basically was just allowed for innovation. You had, a lot of shops, like well-known breweries like Surly Brewing, right? Which for craft beer folks, like they've known them as one of the early pioneers in craft beer from that part of the country. And to seeing all these people rush in, and then seeing some of the brands that had been existing in the space in California, sometimes struggling in other regulated markets, came in, were having great success. Even before that started happening, I looked at our rules and I was like, these are kind of similar. So saw an opportunity to stay working in the industry, which was something that's important to me, but start doing something, in New Orleans. So, I started talking to people about the idea, and I talked to Ken Jackson, who was my kind of original partner in it. Our wives are both partners in the business now as well. That may be a story for another time. But Ken, longtime restaurant hospitality guy in town. Most recently, he's a partner in the Franklin and then Galaxy Tacos. And so I knew Ken had that kind of hospitality experience, knew New Orleans. Loved it. I knew he might be interested in this kind of product. And so came to him with the idea, and we just started working on it last, September. And then, through a little bit of miracle, a little bit of a lot of hard work, we ended up being able to launch commercial sales in April after we got our product registered with the state. But we kind of had product and we're out there launching the brand. We launched the brand kind of over Mardi Gras, even though we didn't have any product. And then a few weeks later, we were able to have products. We started, be able to have some private samplings and stuff like that before we were able to get it out on the market. But yeah, it's kind of by way of seeing the, kind of what I've been counseling other people on, is looking for the opportunities.
Yeah.
But really the ability to bring, what is a cannabis product, it's a THC product, mainstream. And even, all the people who I've worked with in a lot of the, those California, these other markets, like they don't have this yet. And so
oh, really?
I don't even realize that, on premise and mainstream and, being in grocery stores and corner shops and not, no shade on them, but like to be out of the smoke shop world. And in a lot of states that even have these hemp products available, they still are more, they're in your smoke shops. And so they're reaching a certain demographic, they're reaching certain people. But it's just not the same as walking down an aisle and, you're whatever it is, like the New Orleans. And also what's been really rewarding is, New Orleans is still a town for its bigger grocery stores of the corner store of the corner grocery store where people have a relationship with the people who work there, right? They'll bring products even in for them. And then, just kind of hearing people around town, like, where do you like to pick up Louie Louie? But yeah, it's been interesting full circle. And now all that other stuff is, I still do some work there, but that's the periphery, and I get to focus a lot on being here.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's actually how it was brought to my attention. Lulu was someone came in with one and they were like, "Hey, have you tried this?" And I was like, "No, what is that?" And they brought it to me, and then I went and reached out to you guys on Instagram, and I was like, "Hey, we want to carry your product. Bring it to us."
Yeah, look, and it's been exciting along with some other other brands to be out there and be in places like another bar we're sitting today, where someone can go to the bars they've been going to forever. Mm-hmm. They've known about a bar that is just about as a classic American bar as it could be, but have a non-alcoholic option that still has an effect, right? And so that's something that there's other NA options, but I can tell you from having tried myself, right? Like on those nights, whether it was, I still drink, but I just don't drink as much. I used to be a much heavier drinker, and but having it, I don't really miss alcohol when I have this kind of option. So
absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah. Whether it's mine or I was just out at a few, went from a cannabis industry event to a beverage industry event in Vegas and then LA last week. And so even just having, a lot of there's other brands in the space around, even being at this event that it was centered on a lot of new beverage alcohol products that I, a few years ago would have been really excited to try. Mm-hmm. Now I was just like, I'm going to stick with just the cannabis table. So,
yeah.
That's been an interesting change for me as well.
Now, I was telling people when I was back home for Thanksgiving, from Arkansas, small town Arkansas, and I was telling them that now we have these products, and they were like, "What? Like you're selling THC products at a bar?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, it's like all over the place down there, and people love it."
Yeah, and it is in
a place where weed is still illegal. That's what I'm getting at. Like back home where I'm from, so this is unheard of for them.
Well, I mean, yeah, these, Arkansas actually has now a decently sized cannabis market. Mm-hmm. Dispensaries there, that's a growing business. And so, I imagine maybe it hasn't trickled down to smaller towns as well. Yeah. But that's the other thing is even in states that have robust dispensaries, right? Like all over the place, big part of business. If this product hasn't proliferated or been allowed to be sold in mainstream retail, or even more interesting to me is on-premise setting like this, then yeah, they may know, hey, there's dispensaries, right? Like they may know, hey, I can go buy whatever I want. I can just buy weed, I can go, but they may still think, and it is in some places like crazy that is in a bar or a supermarket. And so that's been one of the rewarding things for me too, is I've been, an on and off cannabis user my whole life. Mm-hmm. Kind of after a long period of time being like, hey, I'm a grown-up. You're not supposed to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. But consuming a lot of alcohol in those years of my life, like realized that, there's a reason I was more drawn to this when I was younger, and then drinking, even in college years. And a lot of my best friends now were still like made over, smoking sessions in college.
Yeah.
But, kind of coming back to it and just realizing that that is a lot better for me. And then seeing, other people, whether it's, like my neighbors whose kids play with my kids in the street, or someone particularly like yourself, and a lot of people who live and work in a world where we don't get a choice to escape alcohol, to have that other option for them.
Oh, I love it.
Is, that's been really rewarding. I know for Ken in particular, who spent his life in those bars, experienced the same kind of thing as you. It's like once we started having product, mm-hmm. he was like, I'm drinking a whole lot less wine. And now, it just changes the way of lives. And, another member of our team, Phil, he's, well known in town. He's in the spirits world and beer world. And, also always, in and out doing a lot of samplings and just always around spirits and pouring spirits. And that's just part of his job. And, he also, it's found a place in his, whatever you want to call it, like repertoire. And so now, and for a lot of people also, we've who telling me that like, who still drink alcohol regularly, that a lot of times it is for them, maybe it's a nightcap. So it's instead of coming home after dinner, pouring that last cocktail, right? They're killing the alcohol a few hours earlier, feeling better, getting maybe some better sleep by having, the cannabis as well. But yeah, look, it's been a wild ride. I mean, and we're really excited to be, and again, like I said, on premise is the most rewarding for me.
Dude, I think you guys are at like the bottom of this right now. I think you're going to be huge, like especially with this product. I've tried some of the other cannabis products too. Not a huge fan of some of the other ones. But this right here, it's next level, man. Like whatever you guys are doing, like it's working.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. We have some great, partners we work with on the production side. Also, hoping to bring some more online in New Orleans in the first quarter. So some of this, we'll be expanding some other states, but Louisiana is our market now, and New Orleans obviously our home market and always will be. So we're excited to potentially bring some production home. But yeah, I have to throw a lot of that credit to like I said, mentioned Ken, my partner. We had some basics ideas of what we wanted it to taste like, whether would it have calories? How would it be sweetened? Do we want to use real sweeteners, real juices? So we kind of all thought together on what, were the kind of, guidelines, like bullet points of just like, hey, this is what we want it to drink like, right? We wanted it to have real juice in it. So at the very least, like more like a Spindrift than, La Croix or whatever, right? So had to have some real something to it. And we wanted it to be, the flavors to be, something that stood up on their own, even if there wasn't, cannabis in it, right? That someone would still be like, wow, this tastes really good. This tastes good, for being a THC drink. We want it to taste good either way.
Yeah. They're delicious beverages.
Yeah. And so Ken, he's kind of found inspiration in, really a lot of we wanted to respect local things. So obviously we have a Satsuma flavor, which everyone here kind of knows what that means. They may not know what other components are in it. That one also has taken some changes over time. So anyone listening who's tried it, maybe it was a little too much of something in the past, we've just reformulated it. So we took the honey out of it. It's now agave, like the blackberry formulation, and we kind of balanced everything out. But yeah, Satsuma, other parts of the country, other people I talk to, I have to explain a lot of times what that is. But, obviously here, especially this time of year, right? Like everyone eats Satsumas, everyone drinks Satsuma juice. And he also found some inspiration in his past and working in the fine food and cheese world, and a recipe that he'd had that kind of tied together Satsuma and some of the other flavors. And then obviously ginger, something, we do grow locally here, and kind of just the fresh flavors for that one. And then the blackberry lemon was inspired by kind of both Ken, where he grew up in Tennessee, had blackberry bushes in his yard. And then my wife's family, I'm originally from Philly, so I'm not originally from here. I've lived here 10 years, but my wife grew up in New Orleans, and her mom's family all come from Raceland. And her grandfather has what he calls a garden, which is like a mini farm.
Yeah.
But just has insane blackberry bushes on it. And so, when I started coming down here, eating them fresh off the bush, and then now my kids going there with it. And so the blackberries was also something that was, obviously, yeah, lots of people have blackberries. It's not a specific, it's not a Satsuma specific to Louisiana, but it's definitely part of, our experience. And so with both going for things that tasted really good, but wanting to share, right, a lot of like New Orleans in it. And so, we tried to pull that through the packaging and the design, as well as like some stuff maybe that if you're here, you would definitely recognize as kind of New Orleans-y vibe. We're a little tribute to kind of the street, the hand painted signs that a lot of us, see and love around town on a lot of those corner stores. But yeah, it's, the flavor again had to carry for us. Like we're hopeful. I hope you're right that this does become something bigger, but.
Dude, I'm usually pretty good about these things. Yeah. It's, you guys are there.
Well, I appreciate it, but yeah, we knew that it wasn't, like to me, this wasn't, and to none of us on the team was just like a, gold rush or opportunity where like, hey, whatever, as long as we get it out there and it's got weed in it, it'll sell. Like, no, This had to be, and we even said like from the beginning, like, we're not going to release it. We were originally hopeful for Mardi Gras. That didn't quite happen, and then it was like, we'd really like to, we really need to be ready for Jazz Fest, which meant, hey, can we have a launch party on 420, which was conveniently a Thursday afternoon this year, which seemed apropos. Right. Yeah. And that happened, but stuff had to come together. The licensing had to hit. Like we finally got the product hit the registry, I think on April 17th. And so, yeah, we were, but we said from day one that like none of those milestones or goals mattered if the taste wasn't right. And so that's the other thing is we've been able to stay, keep the batches pretty small so far so that we can make changes because we're only, having enough product on. And I mean, also, yes, it's gone a little faster than we expected on the sales side, but we're able to keep up with demand, but also, again, make those changes. And so we feel now that like having done a lot of tastings, listening to people, right, talking to people like yourself who are serving this, that, you know, the Satsuma was just a little out of whack for some people. Right. And so we had people here that really loved it. It was too much for them. And,
that's the one I haven't tried yet. I need to try that one.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure. I didn't have any at the house.
Well, we have some here. I'll grab one of these.
Bring it, but yeah, well, I'll make sure to get you some of the, you know, so you can try if you still have some of the older one, but yeah, look, we loved it and a lot of people did. And so even my wife was like, I don't know about changing this, but, we all think it's for the best. And it was just, you know, not a complete change of course, just a little bit, just dialing it in.
God, man, now you got me interested. I would like to have a taste test with the old one and the new one and see.
Definitely set that up.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
But yeah, that's been one of the fun parts, you know, for us as well, is just sitting down and working with, you know, we're lucky to kind of have as part of our partner, who's part of our, you know, overall like team. They have some really amazing in-house talent, like a beverage scientist. I mean, I think his official title is he came from more of the beer world originally and has done both food and beer, but like innovation brewer. And I was like, that's a pretty cool title.
It's a nice title.
And so, yeah, he's, you know, got a lot of skills, right. That like where Ken's worked around drinks and even, you know, batching for restaurants, when you start to scale up to, you know, making, you know, 20,000 cans at a time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It just takes like a different set of skills. And so being able to kind of work through the whole evolution, but keep that all kind of within our team. And then obviously, you know, you work with the other production partners, but
how different is it from the brewing process of a beer than it is to this? Because I've been to Zony Mash's, seen their setup and everything when they've been brewing and canning, and it's elaborate.
Yeah, and so this is you know, similar to like, I mean, it's even in some ways, I don't want to say easier than a hard seltzer. It's just a little different. So obviously beer, right? You have to do a bunch of process. You have pretty, you know, interesting, even for a basic beer, ingredient lists. And I've only brewed beer a couple of times, but I know that, I mean, like producing anything has to be sanitary, but particularly beer, because it's like alive, right? You have yeast. And so anything slightly off, right? Beer's bad. But it goes through a few different vessels. Like you have to boil it, right? Then it goes to fermenting, and then it goes to the final tank where it rests. Drinks like these are generally just more made in one of those mixing tanks. And so it's more like maybe building a cocktail, right? Than doing beer. Because the base is carbonated water, and then everything else is an ingredient. And so it has to be mixed. And obviously, you know, the one special ingredient, the cannabinoid, that's also something where, you know, just like the other ingredients we use, like we wanted real juice and, you know, real like that, the ginger cucumber has real ginger, right? I like to taste that. Like I'm one of those ginger nuts. I would have,
this is my favorite.
I would have it way stronger myself, but I know that that's not for everyone.
No, I like this one a lot.
But like in doing that, right, the cannabinoid ingredient for us, there's a bunch of reasons why it has to work. Like, so these, and really why this works on premise as opposed to, you know, why is it different than a gummy or another edible, is that they're fast acting, right? And so you drink it and you experience it like alcohol. So if someone else cracks a beer and you crack one of these, like you're not going to be waiting till they've had the beers and everyone's gone home 2 hours later to feel the effects.
Right.
So that ingredient has to work. It's also important that it's made right so that it's homogenized through the drink and so it's evenly dispersed, right? So you're not getting all 5 milligrams in the first sip or none of it till the end. And we want, you know, kind of as minimal flavor impact from it as possible. And so sourcing that, and then ultimately how the cannabis, which is in, you know, what's called a nano emulsion, meaning they just break the cannabinoids, they break the THC and CBD, which are kind of oily by nature, break it down really small. So again, so it can get dispersed in that drink. And so doing that though, it still has different interplay with the different ingredients. So just kind of going through and test batches and just, you know, making sure that, you know, the way that works with the ginger is different than with blackberry. And it's
got to be a tough thing to test.
Yeah. Look, and again, that's why I'm really glad to have, you know, someone who is scientific degrees in this, and our production partner as well. The guy who runs that company, who's a partner in business now as well, is he built a brewery business in Ohio and then eventually sold it to Anheuser-Busch. And so he's, you know, gone through the whole life cycle. Like he knows how these things get in cans, what drives quality. And so them working together on that is really, you know, really important for us with the producers, but yeah, it does. It's like, and that's something where, you know, I've come from, you know, a lot of the brand side, again, Ken, right? Like you make a carbonated drink at the bar is different, right, than making a carbonated drink and has to go in here. And then, you know, once it's in there, right, like the goal is that it changes as little as possible. But when you do that, you know, canning, like, again, we were finding, and some people told us this, the blackberry wasn't carbonated enough for them because of the juiciness of it. It's our, kind of the juiciest flavor, the richest. And so even though the carb level was kind of similar to start, it just wasn't holding quite enough. So we gassed it up a little bit. Right. So we dialed that up a little bit. And now, again, that was another one in reaction to hearing from, some consumers, hey, this isn't, I thought this was a seltzer, right? Not carby enough for me. And so, part of that was a learning, as we realized it was just, part of why it wasn't, people weren't experiencing in the same way as the other flavors, or having the same expectation met, was, so we, added a little more carbonation, and then the next batch after that, people were, really happy with.
Yeah. I think this is the way to actually make a product that people are going to like, is listen to their feedback. I think a lot of people that make products these days, they don't listen to any customer feedback. So it's cool that you guys have a relationship with your customers that way.
Yeah, look, I mean, we all live here. And so this has been something where it's been, pretty grassroots so far. We're, again, super excited with the response we've had. Again, look, part of that is, I'm really proud of our flavors, and I love our branding and everything we've done there. But yeah, part of it is just, I believe in this category. Mm-hmm. And so, I believe, in a lot of the other brands giving it a go in this and making this as a product that people really want. But yeah, again, it's like, if the flavors, that was kind of our thesis, is people have to really want to drink it. And so, yeah, by getting out there and doing a lot of tastings and doing events, like we were at, Top Taco, in October, we had a little pop-up at St. Vincent at their gumbo cook-off last month. And so, yeah, just getting out there with FaceTime, and obviously, we want people to try it. But some of that is, hearing from people what they do and don't like. And especially an event like Top Taco, where it is, that's a sampling type event. So it's not necessarily people, buying one and having a whole one. It is people who say, hey, I want to try all three of them. Or, I would never order that one, but I'll try it, right? Like, if you're giving it to me, they paid to be at the event, but it's free, right? Like, I'll try all three. Same thing if we do a tasting in a store. And so some people will be like, well, the Satsuma has cinnamon and thyme. We tell people. People will still be like, I don't like cinnamon. And they'll still be like, well, I'll try it, because they wouldn't buy one, but they'll try it, and then they'll hate it. And I'll be like, well, I told you. And so if you really don't like cinnamon, it's not for you, right? Like, don't eat big red gum. If you don't like cinnamon either, but we tone that down and try to bring it in. But yeah, usually it is like, a lot of people are like, oh, I like this, but I like this one more. Well, why? Some of it's just down to flavor, but some of it was like, I like that this one's fizzier. And so, yeah, look, I mean, obviously we haven't made any wild changes since starting it, but again, being able to, particularly while we have still been, we'll be launching in some Texas markets, in Austin this month, and then hopefully some other as a few more. You
guys are growing, man.
We're trying to. I mean, we're again, just kind of want to, share on some of like the, there's obviously a lot of affinity between here and Austin and Houston. A lot of people going back and forth between those cities, for various reasons. Texas also has regulations similar to this, and I think people who want these products, but they haven't really hit, particularly on premise yet. So we're kind of eager to just go out there and see if, hey, we can get this in, bars like this, and get people interested, because, and I was there with the family this morning. So I'll plug one of our first on-premise accounts, just Flower Moon Bagels. I don't think they need anyone giving them any more attention considering the line when they opened this morning, how long it was. But even right off the bat, and like I said, we launched, our first sale was April 19th. Within Flower Moon took us on pretty shortly after, and they did really well during Jazz Fest, right? A lot of people who went there, get bagels, head over to Jazz Fest. It's in the same direction for a lot of people. And I was wearing hats, obviously, because, that's what I was going to do then. And a young woman came up to me in a porta potty line, as Jazz Fest as it gets, and was like, hey, like, do you work for that company? And, I told her I was one of the partners, and she's like, oh, it's amazing. She's like, me and my boyfriend just tried it at Flower Moon this morning. We loved it. I was like, that's so cool. And so it is just like being in some places like that, where a lot of New Orleanians are going right now, and being particularly on premise is just a chance for people to, experience it, to try it out. And so, like, yeah, a lot of people were like, Flower Moon, it's a breakfast place. I don't know. Are you going to do well? Yeah, we do consistently well there. I saw a few people there this morning. I already had them on the table when I got there at 8:15. Some parents, and then probably some maybe hungover. But it's something that obviously a lot of folks were already pairing cannabis with their morning routine. And for others, maybe it seemed foreign, but they're like, And actually here's one. My wife has a WhatsApp group chat with 14 of her friends. They all went to college together. They've all stayed in touch. One of whom less of a cannabis consumer, but a drinker. Her husband had ordered, some Louie Louie's when we launched our e-com site last month. And so she had some in the house, and she texted the group chat this morning, "Is this good for a hangover?" And everyone's like, yeah, because she's not the kind of person who would have gone right and consumed cannabis in a traditional way, right? Like she wasn't grabbing the vape or whatever. Probably not gummies either, but she's like, let me give this a shot. And I'm guessing she's probably feeling a little bit better now than she was when she asked that question. So
yeah, definitely, man. Weed's good for hangovers for people that don't know. Yeah. So people can buy the product online?
Yeah. So we did, after a lot of work, as I mentioned, Ken's wife, Marie, and my wife, Michelle, both kind of came on full-time for a little while. They both have full-time jobs now, but are still helping out a lot, doing a lot of projects. And Marie kind of led with our web development team. Some folks I'd actually worked with in the cannabis industry before. But Marie kind of championed our website effort, and we finally got that launched at the end of October. So that was another one, right? Like we wanted to get the product out to the world. When we did, we weren't, saying, hey, we're waiting till we have a website. Like our website, we had a basic informative one. But obviously first and foremost, like we want to be in stores and we want to be on premise. But it's rewarding. A lot of our initial customers were family and friends. Yeah. My dad is our, most engaged shopper so far, which is sweet. I appreciate it. But it's fun to kind of get our feet under us. Like Ken's kind of, Marie led on the front side of building out the website. Ken's kind of running on, the e-com operation right now, like managing the orders, getting them in, getting them packed, getting them out, staying on top of communications with customers. And so getting our feet under us, but it is, so it's been, I guess, about 6 weeks now and off to a good start there. But yeah, we ship to, I think today it's 30 states. It's an interesting, right? Like, as I mentioned at the beginning, right? You do the regulatory strategy with a business and with, with these hemp products, there are a lot of states where they are either, I would say, exist in a kind of gray area where they're not directly regulated, right? So legal by the amount of THC, legal by the fact that they're hemp derived, but the state hasn't actually said one way or the other. Right. Whereas Louisiana, they're expressly regulated under the consumable hemp program, overseen, really by the Department of Health and the ATC. And so between the kind of those states, there's about 30. And then there are, some states who said, hey, we're not allowing anything with THC. Let's say Idaho, right? Even any kind of CBD product, no broad range, no full spectrum. It has to be 100% no THC. And then other states, particularly some that have, bigger adult use markets, have dispensaries, and some have them everywhere, say, hey, I don't care if this is hemp or cannabis. If it's got THC, we decided to regulate it this way. And, while it seems kind of unfair at the same time, right? Like in Oregon, it's the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission now, right? It used to be the OLC and now it's the OLCC. But they said, hey, we already have a structure for products that have THC in it. It's not on the alcohol side of our books. Whereas, in Louisiana, it started with, hey, ATC, we do have these consumable hemp products and you're going to start with it, right? Outside of the medical marijuana market here, which is, I think, entirely overseen by the Department of Health and Department of Ag. But ATC, we had to, me and my colleagues from other companies had to show up in Baton Rouge in support of, our industry and against some bills that were floating around last spring.
I heard about those.
Yeah. And look, I think, obviously I'm happy that nothing came to pass those. I think there's a bunch of reasons with, primarily maybe different philosophical reasons to back it, but a lot of it was like, hey, this is, an economic opportunity. It's small businesses. And we do have the rules in place, right? Like I wouldn't have started this brand or this business or been involved in it, in a state where I didn't necessarily have clear rules to follow, because that's what I've done, right? And I know that the future of this industry is to be as responsible as we can. Just like if there were people bootlegging liquor right now, like people wouldn't really be buying their products. And especially here, like there are unfortunately both, cannabis, weed, whether it's saying it's hemp derived or cannabis derived, there's still a lot of bootleg products because, weed is still federally illegal. And so a lot of people aren't getting it legal ways. And then there's a lot of constraints on operators in legal markets, even like California. The taxes are crazy. dispensaries are limited for the size of a state. There's just not nearly enough dispensaries. And what shocks a lot of people is like California, I think it's still over 65% of municipalities don't allow dispensaries, even in California. And so, there's a lot of folks who are saying, hey, like, consume it. We don't want that business in our location. And, some places have done that with alcohol as well, but obviously a lot less common. And so, yeah, just being able to get out of that world, right, and have these mainstream is just, obviously it's great for consumer access and people have the ability to just go in and get it. It's obviously a different product, and I don't, necessarily see grocery stores, selling eighths anytime soon. Or maybe ever, but hey, in Louisiana, like where I grew up in Pennsylvania. So all the liquor was in not only liquor stores, but all state owned liquor stores. So the most extreme, right? Then, I've lived in New York and DC where we do have liquor stores, and in, New York, like the supermarkets don't sell liquor. It's in a single channel. So saying, dispensaries for weed is a single purpose, solely focused regulated channel. It's not that weird. I mean, that is how liquor is bought in a lot of states. But in the end, it's better for consumers. Pretty much, it's proven out that it's fine to have, liquor in grocery stores. I mean, it did blow my mind moving down here to see every gas station I go into have hard alcohol in it. Doesn't necessarily compute. But at the same time, right, like people are going to go buy stuff and they're going to consume it.
The place that I grew up was a dry county. So it was very, very weird to come down here and see alcohol everywhere, but it's just part of the culture down here,
Yeah. And I think that's one thing here where a lot of people are like, well, hey, New Orleans, a booze town. Like, how are you, I don't think people are going to take well to this, weed drink, but what it boils down to, and I want to harp on that nano emulsion that makes the drink. Cause again, it's not something that's proprietary to us. Like there's different suppliers. I think we get ours from some of the best, but, that ability to have these products, first of all, taste good, be reliably dosed evenly, but have that quicker onset. That's really a game changer. And it's something that, I'm with you, but it's a drinking culture. It's not necessarily have to be alcohol. Right. And so, you have folks who don't drink alcohol anymore, who still go to 7 days of Jazz Fest, even if they used to be drinkers. Right. And still out there partying at Mardi Gras. And so the hope is here where it's something even that bridges a gap further, where someone who still wants to, change their mind state, whatever you want to call it, have an effect, get a buzz, right? Feel high, whatever you want to call it. Someone can still do that. And so they're still drinking. It's still, and that was a part of it for us too. It was like a lot of brands, whether they're alcohol or not, right, are in, and a lot of the alcohol is because hard seltzers went, primarily in this form factor is like the skinnier can. To me, like New Orleans is a culture where I don't care whether you're, what neighborhood you're from, what kind of school you went to, how much money you make, or how fancy you dress. Like you're fine pulling a can out of an ice chest and drinking it on a street in New Orleans. And it's like such a thing that's part of it to us that I was like, we were like, this has to be a 12-ounce standard can. It can't be anything but, because New Orleanians are not like shy about this, right? Like, I don't care if it's, a junior league mom, right? Like they'll drink out of a can here because, and so that's something that, also obviously canned beverages in general have kind of had a renaissance beverage altogether, right? Like the beverage shelf at a Whole Foods or even Rouse's now has such a wide variety of products from, like kombucha used to be exotic. And now it seems like now they have a house brand, even at Rouse's. And so, yeah, just all kind of drinks have become crazy exotic. And that was the other thing is, we don't want these to feel too exotic. Like it's THC, it's going to be different and out there anyway, but we wanted it to feel kind of comfortable. Like, oh yeah, hey, I've done this before.
You would blend in with these cans easy.
Yeah. And that's part of it too, is like, we wanted people to feel comfortable with it. And there always has been, cultural stigmas around cannabis use. And so that's another part of it is like, this is just as normalizing as it can get because you're just drinking with everyone else. And yeah, and I mean, being mainstream, like being at a bar, that mainstream cannabis use, and it normalizes it, right? It's not, hey, the cannabis crowd going out the back or taking a walk around the block. Not saying people aren't still going to do that, but it gives those people who've been that mindset of, hey, maybe I'd rather be not drinking this beer. I'd rather just go smoke a joint, but hang out with my friends. They don't have to separate themselves.
They don't have to go hide from it. Yeah.
Or say, hey, wait, I'll be in 5 minutes, right? They don't have to do that anymore because you can just consume and just be in the space. And so that's something that also, that's rewarding. And just kind of, again, like I think, you know, in a world where alcohol is part of our culture, right? Like, and people said this too, I didn't quite have this kind of face off, but there were, you know, proponents of the consumable hemp program up on Baton Rouge, you know, straight up asked some of the you know, the elected officials who are against these products, like, hey, these are 21 and up. Like, do you think adults aren't responsible enough to choose? And again, like, this is also like a program that restricts it to 8 milligrams a serving. So you can have product that has a lot more in a dosage, but you have to, you know, warn people about that. They have to be aware and they have to be, you know, included with a dosing item. But for something like this in particular, it's like, yeah, some people, this might be a lot, but I mean, right now, if I had, you know, an Imperial IPA, like I used to drink a lot of beer, but now if I had an Imperial IPA, like I'd be pretty toasted this afternoon.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, it was just kind of when it comes down to it is like, hey, these are restricted. They're 21 plus. In Louisiana, they're regulated by the same folks who regulate alcohol, right? It's the same agent who would come in and bust you for selling these underage drinkers would be the same person looking to see if you were selling booze to underage drinkers or if you're selling, you know, to over intoxicated patrons. Right. So it's the same question. And, you know, I get it. Like a lot of people didn't want to be the first bar to have it or the first restaurant or the first hotel. And I totally understand that.
Dude, I love being first.
Yeah,
if you would have came to me first, I'd have been like, it's in here.
Well,
done.
I appreciate that. I wish I had known. I mean, because my I do drive by here a lot. My son's school is right around the corner, and it's nice to have kind of, you know, discovered that, you know, this bar through the process. And that's another thing that's been rewarding, I think, for all of us is kind of, you know, rediscovering new places, rediscovering some places, like having a new reason to, you know, like take like our designer came to town with his wife a few weeks ago. They just came for a weekend away. Lives in Atlanta. And we were, you know, trying to decide where to take him to lunch. And we're like, do we want more old school po' boys or more this or that? And we're like, let's go to La Uses by the track. Cause they have Louie Louie. Like, you know, we wanted him to be able to experience it and see, you know, his work, like, you know, poster up on the wall, but it's like a landmark place. And so being able to have a new reason to even say, like, you know, it used to be like used by a track as those super cold, frosty beer mugs, but now I'm going to, you know, pour a Louie Louie in one. And so that's been fun too, is kind of, again, like I said, either discovering new spots or really just getting out there again, you know, with being able to try this. And yeah, we've just been really excited by the reaction and yeah,
I'm telling you, man, it's ground up for you guys. I look forward to seeing where you guys go with the company. I think it's going to be huge. I'm a huge proponent of your product. The people can find you online at
it's drinklouielouie.com. So yeah, add that drink first, but drinklouielouie.com. That's our Instagram handles, Drink Louie Louie as well. That's generally where you can find us. On Twitter, I somehow screwed it up and got our account banned before I ever tweeted once. I don't know, permanently banned. So drop the I in drink. It's DRNK, Louie Louie. I don't know. I just set it up right when we were setting up the name. I was like, let me just grab the same handle, right? Didn't go anywhere in Twitter. And then maybe I didn't do the verification right or something, but it's like, your account suspended.
Does it have THC in the?
No, I didn't put any information. Okay. It was literally just the handle so far. Didn't even have a picture yet because this is before like we even were thinking about launching anything. Yeah. Right? Just wanted to hold it. But then it's like, you know, your account's been suspended. Click here to, and then when I go to the next level, it's like, you have been permanently banned. And I was like, I don't even know why. And I hit like appeal, haven't heard back. Twitter, not as important first yet. May try to get that one back. But again, if anyone knows anyone, I guess it's X now.
X, yeah.
It was totally inadvertent. Literally didn't post a thing, follow a single person yet.
You send some product to Elon and be like, yo, we want our name back.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I know that there was a very famous podcast appearance with him, you know, smoking the blunt on Joe Rogan. And yeah, it's, you know, one thing for its ups and downs, that platform, I guess now known as X, does allow cannabis advertising, including regulated state level. And so, you know, like dispensaries can advertise. And so that's a world we're living in too, is you're just scrolling through Twitter. Like when I was in New Jersey this summer, you know, and obviously like they're targeting people whose, you know, accounts may reflect an interest in these kind of things, but I'm scrolling through Twitter and, you know, I was visiting my parents in New Jersey, and getting ads for dispensaries, which is cool. Yeah. Because some of the other, you know, platforms, mainstream ones don't, you know, allow.
No, I've been flagged for posting THC stuff before.
Yeah. And so,
well, on the bar's website's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And so we're, you know, that's one thing where it's interesting right now, but more and more publishers online, right? Like whether it's everything from, you know, more mainstream websites, all the different media are starting to at least, take advertisements. We're just seeing a lot of coverage of it. Like you see, like mainstream things like Wirecutter does like reviews for vaporizers and stuff, and they have for years. And so cannabis really has, come out of the taboo, and like you do see it now in mainstream magazines, holiday gift guides. And so, that's just, that's exciting. But yeah, that's where you can find us online. Again, we are shipping about 30 states now. We have merch. We ship 50 states, and ship that all free. So if you're looking for someone for a gift, we have right in front of us. If you're looking along, this is one. I brought Kyle one today, but I kind of found this, and I bought it myself, a green one, really for Mardi Gras, just because I kind of thought it'd be interesting. It's like a hip pack, but it's a cooler. And then immediately I was like, this is really neat. And so we got a bunch of them. We had Inkwell over in Bywater for, do our embroidery on them. And they've been a hit too. So
yeah, it's going to be awesome.
More of them given out as gifts so far than sold for sure. But we have them up on the website, little special right now with our 6-pack, little holiday gift. But otherwise, yeah, it's a fun one. And they do come in handy. And I did I'm 41 and was 40 when I got that one. I was like, I'm a little old for this crossbody hip bag thing, and then I started using it during Mardi Gras. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, everything goes in this city. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Well, right, and that's one of the other things about this is like it's been a full on. Like I love New Orleans, and again, I've lived here 10 years, but there's a lot of things that you have to really love about it to stay here, make a life here, raise your family here, and so this has also been like going through the process of starting. This has been more ingrained me into the city, and like I've enjoyed all those experiences more because I've made, Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest a little bit more my own for myself with having this as well. But it is like, that's what we wanted to, like, there are brands that will have, a drink like this, but they're formulated for sleep, or some are going to say, hey, we have all these other things in them and they may be good for you and they may lead to other feelings. Not saying we'll never do anything like that, but like we call it the good time seltzer, right? Like, there's a lot of, I think it's wellness for a lot of people in a lot of ways anyway. We're not necessarily targeting that, and we're just, for us, like, hey, it's just New Orleans. It's about those good times. But we still need to sleep at night. We still need to sleep well. And I think, yeah, especially coming out of COVID, right? Like a lot of us came back out and we're like, party's on, went for it again. We're like, the world is normal. We want our Mardi Gras. We want our Jazz Fest. Like we want to do all these things. And then after, the COVID years, then after doing that again for a year, a lot of us realized we're a little older. We're like, I can't really do that anymore. And then, the other interesting thing is that, as I talk about being a little older, like some of the younger folks, like Gen Z, kids in their 20s now, right? They're not drinking as much culturally. And so it's interesting because like, you'll be like, yeah, I'm, too old. And they're like, yeah, hangovers. Like, I don't know. I never got why anyone would deal with that. Right. Like we never really got into that. And so that's an interesting dynamic too. And then all the way up to like my parents and my mom, she's now really liking Louie Louie, but she has it at the end of the night while she's watching some TV to get ready for bed. But she's been taking Ambien for like 20 years to help her sleep. And so she hasn't been doing that last month. So
dude, I'm telling you that they work for this kind of stuff, man. It's going to be huge to see where you guys go.
Yeah. Wow.
Eric, thank you for coming in today, brother.
Well, I really appreciate it. And again, appreciate you guys having us in the bar. And so folks, anyone who's listening, come check out another bar in Ferret. It's a big spot. They got a lot of space, a lot of dope games, and really good drinks.
Yeah. We got Louie Louie in here, baby.
We do.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.